The captain of the Toulon was the brave pirate Rosetta Red Star. She couldn't believe that Nick could do this to her. The girl couldn't understand how they had been found. After all, this deal had been completely secret. And now her ship was burning and sinking because they had been attacked. Rosetta promised Nick a personal warship if the deal went well. She instantly dismissed the idea that Nick might betray her. She knew that he would jump for her and into the fire to save her. But now the pirate girl sat on the deck among the wooden barrels, wounded, and knew that this was the end. Suddenly, she saw him. It was Nick. He came up to her and told her that she was going to die anyway, and poured some liquid into her mouth from a small, clear bottle. The boy told her that he had also made a deal. He had been promised that all the people on the Toulon would be spared if he would hand over the captain. Still, she had been mistaken about him. The last thing Rosetta heard was that she had to die so that her team could live. The girl woke up on a soft bed and thought that she had managed to survive that poison. The bedding she was lying on was too luxurious. Rosetta thought she had been saved by someone very rich and influential, and that was not very good for her. The pirate thought that this would cause a lot of problems. The maid shouted that Her Majesty had woken up, and, a little later, a woman ran into her room. She called her Leah and said she was so worried, and Leah had been through so much. But Rosetta didn't know this woman. The pirate girl noticed that this woman was dressed from head to toe in all her best. A gorgeous dress, giant earrings that were definitely over 5 carats, and also delicate lace, created by a true master, and a heavy necklace, looking like a whole box of precious stones. Rosetta realized that she was before her and began to bow. The girl thanked the lady for saving her and asked if she could ever repay her for such great kindness. The woman was very surprised and replied that it was unnecessary. Rosetta didn't understand why everyone here was so kind to her. And then, she happened to look in the large mirror on the floor and saw a completely different person there. She immediately asked who it was in the mirror, and the maid and the woman immediately began to reassure her. It turned out that she was Lady Leah Renux Valdemort. Later, the girl asked the maid what year it was. She replied that it was the year 415, not 411. And before that, the maid told her that it had been 3 months since the day she lost consciousness. Rosetta realized that she was one of 2 daughters of the ducal family, and she was also the fiancée of the crown prince, which practically made her the crown princess. The girl imagined how much noise she had caused in social circles these past 3 months. The butler entered the room and informed the lady that the Duke was expecting her for dinner. Rosetta was excited, for she understood that the Duke was her father and would immediately guess everything, but she decided she could handle the task and got out of bed. When the girl went to the balcony to get some air, her maid shouted and praised her for her dress. She screamed that she didn't want the lady to commit suicide again, and the girl added that even if she did, the prince wouldn't come back to her. That's how Rosetta understood how Leah had died. As the maid combed her hair in front of the mirror, the girl examined her appearance. And the more she examined it, the more strange it became to her that such a beautiful girl could kill herself. Besides, she was the Duke's daughter. Rosetta thought it was so senseless to die because of a boy. She realized that Leah had drunk the poison right in front of him when he had abandoned her. Rosetta tried to understand what she and Leah had in common, besides death, and why they had switched bodies, and also where Leah's soul and her own body were now. The girl suggested that the sea witch Calypso might be involved. Rosetta began to think about how she could meet the witch as soon as possible. Her maid noticed that she was worried about something and asked if it was because she was afraid of how her father would react to what she had done to herself. Then Rosetta became even more worried. She imagined what would happen if someone found out that she was not the real daughter of the Duke. She decided to continue pretending to be a lady. During dinner with her parents, the new Leah forgot about good manners and table etiquette, so her father immediately noticed that something was wrong with her. Her mother defended Leah to her father, explaining her behavior by saying that she had just woken up and had not yet regained consciousness after a long coma. The Duke was a little nicer to his daughter, but reminded her that the social season would soon begin, and she would have to find a new fiancé because the engagement had been broken off. Her father said he would arrange a few meetings next week. This amused the girl, but made the Duke very angry. He remarked that she should remember her etiquette. Also, her father added that it was very humiliating for him when the prince unilaterally broke off the engagement, so he wanted to give her away to someone. The Duke told his wife that even after the prince had abandoned Leah, she was still the Duke's daughter. And with a dowry of a diamond advisor, too. The girl thought that she would get all this, but her father said that he was giving her a month to find a groom. Otherwise, she would move to the monastery forever. Rosetta thought that the monastery was not the best place for her, but decided that she could find a groom for herself this month, and then everything would be fine for her. Meanwhile, the boys discussed the latest news that Leah Rinux Valdemar had come to her senses. But there were rumors that she was crazy, which was why her dowry was so incredible. A young man told his friend that Leah would like his handsome face. He was Viscount Owen Canberg. And his friend was the only rear admiral in the East, Lord Cadriel Monterose. Cadriel replied that he wasn't interested. The guys reminded him that even though there were many people interested in him, she was very pretty. And besides, his mother had already decided everything for him. The Viscount revealed that Lady Valdemar had already received a marriage proposal from him, sent on his mother's orders. Cadriel did not like this. Rosetta lay on her bed and wondered if she should forget about revenge and live such a luxurious and rich life. She thought that would be a good thing. But suddenly, she remembered how Nick had poisoned her, and anger seized her. The girl decided that first she needed to find her body, and began to think about what to do. The pirate girl thought she needed money for this, but when she searched her room, she found absolutely nothing. Rosetta was upset, but decided that in a month she would find the amount of money she needed. Also, find a guy, marry him, and run away from him in 3 months. The maid informed Leah that an etiquette teacher had arrived. Rosetta thought that she had managed to fool the Duke and would now pretend to be a lady. But in class, things weren't as easy as she thought. Her posture and gait were far from ideal. And the girl realized that it was actually a lot of work. She, the Red Star, who had sunk 10 ships with her bare hands, now lay on the floor, exhausted. Everyone around her began to run and scream that the lady had lost consciousness. Rosetta decided that this was a good way out of any situation. But the next day, the maid forced her to wear a small corset, and the girl really lost consciousness. This happened because the maid had pulled the corset too tight. She herself was terribly frightened because her mistress was lying unconscious on the bed again. The maid apologized and prayed that she would do whatever was necessary if only Lady Leah would forgive her. Rosetta thought it would be nice to have such a loyal person with her. Therefore, she asked the girl what her name was and suggested that she follow all her orders without hesitation. And then, Leah promised not to tell anyone about this incident. The girl said her name was Anna, but she admitted that this incident was no longer a secret. Leah was surprised, and Anna replied that she herself would not have been able to carry her to the bed. The etiquette teacher scolded Leah because she was failing at absolutely everything: basic etiquette rules, dancing, and literature. Rosetta didn't want to exert herself too much, so she said her body was very weak. The teacher was worried about her reputation in society. The girl decided to take advantage of this and ask the teacher what her weekly allowance from His Majesty was. This was Rosetta's only chance to get real money, not pebbles. Therefore, Leah asked the teacher for half of her weekly salary in exchange for her performing all the etiquette tasks flawlessly. After a few seconds of thought, the teacher agreed to this adventure, but on the condition that Leah had to meet her standards, otherwise she wouldn't get any money. The next day they started working on gait and posture, mannerisms, and clear pronunciation. Leah also taught etiquette for dealing with boys. The maid Anna combed Leah's hair and said that she looked very beautiful and elegant today, just like a real duke's daughter. Anna admitted that she was frightened when she came to, because it seemed to her that after that incident, her mistress had completely lost her dignity as a noble lady. The Duchess entered Leah's room and asked her daughter if she was ready to receive the grooms. Leah bowed and greeted her mother. The mother was amazed at such impressive changes and told the etiquette teacher, Madame Valmont, that she had done an extraordinary job. The lady hugged her daughter and praised her for the fact that now she wouldn't have to blush for her in front of her potential fiancés. Then the Duchess opened Leah's closet and asked if she had enough dresses, if it was time to update her wardrobe. At this time, the girl received a bag of money from the etiquette teacher. There were a few coins missing, and the experienced pirate noticed it immediately, without even untying the bag. Madame Valmont said that her manners were still far from ideal. The Duchess called Leah to her so that the girl could see how many envelopes with marriage proposals had been sent to her. Her mother was pleased with the number of suitors. Rosetta thought that was even better. The more options she had, the easier it would be for her to find someone who would meet all her criteria. The girl needed a guy who didn't really want to get married, whose family lived in the East, or at least had a summer residence there. Leah was informed that the gentleman had arrived to meet her. On this day, a great responsibility fell upon her maid Anna, who had served Leah for 10 years. Today is an important day for her mistress, and 100 gentlemen are lined up outside her house. Despite the fact that her reputation has recently suffered so much due to rumors of madness, Anna was worried that talking to the grooms was still difficult for her after that illness. So the maid decided to help her mistress and came up with a plan. By the position of the fan, Hannah could tell what Leah wanted. For example, if she covered her face with the fan, it meant that she did not like the groom. If she can't think of a good answer to a question, Leah just laughs, covering her face with a fan. And if she can't remember something, she winks at Anna. And if the lady does all 3 of these things at once, it means she needs to step in. Then, Anna tells the gentleman that Mrs. Leah's father is calling, so they will have to say goodbye. Leah held out her hand for the gentleman to kiss and said they would see each other some other time. Then, she collapsed on the couch and asked if there were many more guys left. The Duchess asked her daughter to sit up straight, because the next boy was definitely worth her attention. Anna read from the list that the next family was the Monteroses. The Duchess said that even Monterose couldn't resist her beautiful daughter. Rosetta jumped up from the sofa because she knew the name. This family was praised and cursed, respected and feared by all the pirates of the empire. It is a dynasty of admirals of the East, whose members have not lost a single naval battle in the past 15 years. The girl understood that there was only one lord in the Monterose family who was suitable for her age. It was Cadriel, the boy who followed her everywhere on her heels. Rosetta was excited that he would recognize her. He had followed her so faithfully. And what would happen then? Would he help her? Would he betray her, like Nick? Anna noticed his carriage through the window and told Leah about it. The girl said she had a headache and ran to the door. Rosetta decided to simply avoid the boy so he wouldn't recognize her. But when Leah opened the door, a tall, blonde-haired young man appeared in front of her and caught her in his arms. The guy asked Leah if she was okay. The girl replied that everything was fine, and Rosetta herself was convinced that it was definitely him. The smell of the sea from his hair confirmed it to her. Rosetta didn't expect the boy who had been running after her to grow up to be so handsome and brave. She thought she wouldn't be able to call him Cookie Eater anymore. The Duchess invited Cadriel into the living room and sat on the sofa. Leah could see her mother's interest in the boy, as she had not let him go for quite some time. The girl herself understood that this guy was a very valuable prey. She decided to chat with him for a while and send him home, because he didn't seem very interested. Leah addressed the boy as Cadriel, but he asked to be called Lord Monterose. Then the girl asked what he wanted to know about her, and he wasn't interested. Of course, Rosetta was outraged that he had once loved her, and now, because of her appearance, could not recognize her and was so cold to her. But she did not want to be recognized. Rosetta thought for a moment and drank a cup of hot tea in one gulp. From the unexpected pain, she screamed, "Drown me in the nearest puddle! Damn tea, damn!" Cadriel jumped up from the sofa and walked over to her. Rosetta realized that he recognized her. Leah said it was time for her to take her leave, and the Lord volunteered to see her off. In the hallway, Cadriel pressed Leah against the banister and asked her to call him the Cookie Eater. She was afraid he had understood, but Leah asked why she had to call him that. The boy asked if she remembered him. The girl replied that they had met at a ball. Cadriel, without taking his eyes off her, asked if they had ever met before. Leah said she was still having problems with her memory and well-being, and asked him to leave. The guy said that if his help was not needed, he would leave. But before leaving, he said that he had lost the Kyrg relic that she had given him during their last meeting. A week had passed since that day, and Leah was sitting in a meeting with her new beau. But all her thoughts were about why Cadriel hadn't done anything to meet her. She was sure that he recognized her. She was also angered by the fact that he had mentioned the relic of Kyrg. Her thoughts were interrupted by the cavalier who suggested that she go with him and become his bride. He also offered 3 carriages, 300 acres of land, 5 estates, and 20 servants. Leah gestured to Anna to see this annoying fellow off. The Duchess supported her daughter in her decision to reject the gentleman's proposal. She told Leah that she was surprised that her father had even invited him. Mom was happy that her daughter would meet many other boys and have a great time. It would not only be about socializing at home, but also going on walks, picnics, and balls. Leah said she didn't need it because she had already chosen, but the Duchess said she understood her. But she said that at her age, she also didn't want to make her debut in high society. Her mother had assured Leah that she would handle it, even better than she had in her youth. Rosetta realized that she had no choice and thanked her mother. After their conversation, the Duchess suggested that Leah go change into her dance outfit because her dance instructor would be arriving soon. Leah agreed, and her mother told her that the merchant would come tomorrow because she had ordered a sapphire necklace and earrings for her. The girl was very happy. When she changed her clothes, the maid said she was as beautiful as an angel who had come down from heaven. Rosetta also thought Leah was beautiful, and the fact that she killed herself because of a guy made her very sad. Rosetta wanted to get Leah's body back and teach her to live for herself, without clinging to men. She decided that she had nothing to worry about. After all, the money was accumulating, and if Cadriel didn't come, it meant he hadn't recognized her after all. Leah entered the ballroom and forgave Cadriel. The Duchess told her daughter that he was her dance teacher because no one inspires her trust as much as he does. The Duchess left them alone in the hall and went away. Cadriel asked Leah how she was doing with the waltz. The girl replied that after losing her memory, she didn't remember anything about the dance. Then the guy held out his hand to Leah and suggested they start from the basics. Cadriel showed her the basic waltz position and held her close to him. Rosetta couldn't understand what was happening to her and why her heart was pounding so hard. She told herself that any boy would be good for her, but not him. 8 years ago, Rosetta rescued the little admiral from Blythe Prison. When she first saw him, she called him the little cookie eater, because the pirate imagined the admiral's son to be a little different, more courageous than this sad kid. Besides, there was a fairly large age difference of 8 years between them, and now they were dancing together, and Leah couldn't take her eyes off Cadriel. She decided to pull herself together and not let him make her fall in love with him. Even though Leah was stepping on his feet, the guy complimented her on her good dance. The girl replied that it seemed like her body still remembered some of the moves. Rosetta decided to question the Lord a little, so she asked why he had behaved like that during their last meeting. Cadriel pressed Leah closer to him. The boy looked into her eyes and said that sometimes when he looked at her, he remembered someone he once knew. Rosetta was in a panic that he recognized her. The girl asked what he was trying to tell her. The Lord replied that he didn't know what he was trying to find. He added that he wasn't even sure what was in his mind. Leah sat in the room with Madame Valmont, wondering whether Lord Montrose had recognized her. She was afraid that he wanted to find out everything and then betray her. Madame Valmont reprimanded Leah for shaking her legs. This made the lady indignant and said that she should be drowned in a puddle because of all these rules. The teacher asked Leah if she remembered what she had to do for her vulgar language. The girl handed her a bag of coins. Madame Valmont said that the fines are helping her, and there is already a lot of progress in their learning. But sometimes she sounds like a port hooligan. The teacher advised Leah to use the phrase, "if you wish," at the end of a sentence to sound more refined. Madame suggested she try using this phrase now. The girl replied, "Madame, I hope you die as soon as possible, if you like. Ho, ho, ho." Rosetta was very amused by this. They danced almost every day, and one day, Cadriel told Leah that today was their last class. The girl asked why, and added the phrase, "if you wish." Cadriel explained that she would make her debut in 2 days. Her first ball would be held at Renoir's official residence. Lord had asked Leah to be her date at the ball. Rosetta didn't know what to say, because she still thought it might be a trap. She imagined how everyone at the ball would talk about her, the crazy one who had been abandoned by the prince. And if you add Cadriel to it, they will definitely attract a lot of attention. And then, its disclosure will be only a matter of time. So she told the Lord that she had already arranged to go to the ball with a certain gentleman. Cadriel, surprised, asked the girl who exactly she had arranged with. Leah could barely remember a name, and said it was a lord from the Marquis of Bingley's family. The boy asked if she meant Lord Bensley. Cadriel promised to go, but before that, he warned Leah that he had taught her the waltz that was to be performed at the opening of the ball. Therefore, he advised her not to dance any other dances. When Leah was leaving for the ball, her maid Anna reminded her that everyone at the ball would be watching her behavior. And therefore, even a barely noticeable movement of her eyebrows could be regarded with indignation. Anna was worried and wanted Leah to be careful. But the girl wasn't listening to her carefully, because all her thoughts were on Cadriel. She wondered if he recognized her. She wondered what he had in mind. If he had known, he would have had to ask her personally, and for some reason he spoke so vaguely. Rosetta believed that Cadriel must know where her body was and be able to help her find it. She also thought about how handsome he had grown in the past 4 years. The girl decided that it would be a good idea to meet her information broker soon. If she was going east, she would have to meet with him first. She thought again of the little admiral 4 years ago, when he had pursued her after she had freed him from prison. He had said he liked her. Cadriel even proposed to her at that time. He also said that he would do everything in his power for her because he fell in love with her at first sight. Anna woke Leah up and told her that they had already left for the capital. Rosetta couldn't believe they were here. She had always told everyone at Toulon that she would get here. The maid reminded the lady once again how she should behave at the ball. Rosetta decided that she really had to be careful because only then would she be able to find a groom and go east. The girl decided to forget about Cadriel and look for someone useful. But already in the room, she learned from her maid that all the gentlemen refused to accompany her to the ball. One of Dia's gentlemen managed to find out that Lord Montrose had forbidden him to accompany her or even approach her. Leah asked him not to tell anyone about this conversation. Leah wondered if she should confess to Cadriel. Could she just explain everything to him and ask for his help? He could take her east. Or marry someone and run away? No, she couldn't do that to the real Leah. Then, the girl decided to go with Cadriel to negotiate. The Duchess had called Leah because Lord Cadriel Montrose had arrived with a large bouquet of red roses. She immediately asked why he had done so. Leah clarified what his reason was for interfering. Then the guy understood what she was talking about and replied that he had advised them to look for a bride of their level. He believed that none of the gentlemen deserved her. Rosetta was angry with Cadriel that he was now constantly interfering in her personal life. Cadriel confessed to her that he had lost something very valuable 4 years ago. The girl asked how it concerned her. He replied that what he had lost was in her head. Lord Montrose took out his blade and handed it to Leah. He wanted her to take it in her right hand. When she took it, he told her that an acquaintance of his had once hurt her hand. After that, the girl always had to straighten her shoulders when she picked up something heavy. And Cadriel admitted that she seemed to him very much like her. The boy asked Leah for the first time if she would go to the ball with him. Anna was preparing Leah for the ball and saw that the girl was upset. The maid advised the lady to go to the ball with Lord Cadriel Montrose, and if she didn't like him, there would be many other gentlemen there, and she could meet someone. But Rosetta decided that she would go with Cadriel to the ball, but she would not follow his lead if he had something planned. She wanted to open up to him. When Leah went out to see Cadriel in a gorgeous ball gown, the boy said she looked wonderful. But Rosetta thought he was lying. She remembered how he had looked at her before. His heavenly eyes were filled with love for her. The emotions boiling within him reminded her of hot lava, and now, lest she hear it from his lips, lest she see it in his eyes, the girl decided that she would not allow herself to kneel before him. When their pairing was announced at the ball, everyone in attendance turned their attention to them. People were talking about the fact that Leah had been engaged to a prince, and now, 3 months later, she was coming to the ball with a lord. Rosetta thought they were drawing too much attention, but hoped there weren't people like the witch Calypso here. Cadriel, as if reading her thoughts, reassured her that she would have to endure very little, and that after the first dance, everyone would forget about them. Therefore, the Lord advised her to spend her time quietly. During the first dance, Leah decided to ask Cadriel what he would do when he found what he was looking for in her head. The guy was about to answer, but he was interrupted. The crown prince was offended and told Leah that she had forgotten to greet him. She asked Prince Diego and his fiancée who he was. The prince replied that the story of the memory loss was probably true. Leah bowed to him, but thought he was very unpleasant. Crown Prince Diego introduced his fiancée to Audrey. Rosetta thought he had deliberately decided to introduce the former and the current. The girl decided to play his game. She embraced her beau and introduced the prince to Lord Cadriel Monteros. He asked the prince what business he had with Leah. Diego replied that he had only come to inquire about Her Majesty's health. The prince added that she had attempted suicide because he had chosen another woman. Leah was outraged by this and began to call the prince names, but Cadriel covered her mouth with his hand in time. The lord replied to the prince that he himself would take care of the health of his companion. Cadriel also added to Prince Diego that if he went to Lady Leah with questions, the entire kingdom would know about their duel. The lord and his companion bowed. When they were alone, Cadriel reminded Leah that he had asked her not to draw too much attention to herself. The girl replied that this crown prince was too impudent. The boy told Leah that she should watch her words, and she couldn't take her eyes off his handsome face. Rosetta told herself that she couldn't fall in love. At that moment, Cadriel's best friend, Lord Owen, approached them. Rosetta recognized him as her informant, Turner. But Leah was not to reveal that she knew about this. Cadriel told Leah that he would bring her something to drink and asked his friend to keep the lady company. But Leah clung to him with both hands and begged him not to leave her. The boy reassured her, assuring her that Owen was a very good man and would not harm her. But to Rosetta, he was a real beast of prey. Leah began by asking if he was Owen Canebrake. The guy said he was. At that time, she didn't understand why the Viscount would sell information. The girl replied that she was very pleased to meet him, but if you think about it, he always seemed suspicious to her. He rarely had contact with aristocrats, despite his generous salary, and he was too good-looking for an ordinary informant. Rosetta blamed herself for being so careless. She thought that if he found out about everything, he would definitely hand her over to the authorities, and then she would not be able to save her head. The girl remembered that he always had a wealth of information. Therefore, she assumed that Turner might know where her body was. But how could she ask about such a thing? Owen told Leah that she looked excited. He asked what she was worried about, and even suggested that she was still looking for a groom. The boy hastened to assure the lady that Cadriel would not give up so easily in the fight for her heart. This meant that she needed to learn about the Red Dawn as soon as possible. Leah took a sip of champagne and immediately felt very sick. Rosetta couldn't understand how she could get so drunk so quickly. Owen picked up the lady. And Leah said, "Hey, Turner!" The guy was surprised and asked how she knew that name. The girl replied that she would tell him about it in exchange for information about Rosetta Red Dawn. Lady Valdemar had promised to pay him handsomely for the information. Owen asked how a girl from the archipelago could possibly know about this and why she was so interested. When he said, "You really?" Rosetta was afraid he had understood everything, but Owen asked Leah if she had really found out about Cadriel's past. Then, the boy assumed that she knew that Rosetta was Cadriel's first love. As promised, Leah gave Owen a bag of gems. The lord said he was happy to serve her, and Leah went out onto the balcony to breathe in the fresh air. It seemed to her that she could smell the sea and hear its sound. Cadriel called her and said that he had been looking for her everywhere because he was very worried that he had lost her again, his Rosetta. The girl turned to him and did not know whether she was pleased to hear this or not. When Cadriel went to get drinks, various grooms and their parents accosted him, but he ignored them and watched Leah and Owen. The boy remembered her words about what he would do if he found the thing in her head. He decided that this was her confession that she was Rosetta. Cadriel understood everything, even when the girl was burned by hot tea and quarreled like a pirate. Then, with each new meeting, he recognized his Rose in her more and more. He thought he was going crazy while he was looking for her. And here she was in front of him, but for some reason she wouldn't admit it and avoided answering. And his sadness turned to rage, because he didn't understand why Leah was silent, why she kept lying to him. If only he could let her go, but when he saw the prince, he realized that he had to protect his Rose. If the prince guessed her true identity, then Cadriel would lose her again, forever. The thought of that terrified him, and when the boy saw that Leah was no longer in the hall, he began to panic. He decided that he would give up everything he had in order to protect her. Cadriel found her on the balcony and called out, "Rosetta!" "My Rose," the girl said to herself. "Well, come on. This is your chance, Rosetta. You just have to confess and ask for help. She assured herself that Cadriel could not betray her. No one in this world could. But not him. The girl knew very well what he really was like. Rosetta knew she could just tell the guy everything and use him to get revenge on Nick. But she understood that, even with such a good arrangement, she had no right to do so. Rosetta decided that she could not play with his feelings. Cadriel was destined to become the best admiral in the country. He had a brilliant future ahead of him, a beautiful wife by his side. But one request from her, and he would give it up and go to the bottom with her without a shred of doubt. Rosetta decided she had to let him go. She looked at him, and he was as beautiful as ever. His gaze was as pure and bright as sunlight. Leah asked if he had forgotten her name. The next morning, the girl woke up in her bed and had no memory of how she got home. The maid, Anna, told her that Lord Montrose had brought her here the previous evening. Anna was very happy for the lady and said that now all that was left was to prepare the invitations for their wedding. Leah was surprised and asked why she thought so. The girl replied that she would rather know what happened at night. The journey from the residence to the estate takes about 3 hours, and there were no more. And when the Duchess asked Cadriel what had happened, he only smiled slightly and left her without an answer, and his eyes clearly showed, "You already know everything, don't you?" Rosetta thought Cadriel was a cunning fox. The girl didn't understand why she was in such a state, as if she had been drinking all night. Anna asked Leah how much champagne she had drunk. Leah replied that she had had no more than 2 glasses of champagne all evening. The maid was worried about the lady and asked if she was feeling so unwell because she had been seeing Prince Diego there. Anna thought it was because of him. She got so drunk. But she didn't believe Leah, who had completely forgotten him. Rosetta decided to ask her about the day Leah poisoned herself. The girl replied that she did not know all the details of that day, but she could tell something. She began by saying that rumors of the prince's love were always popular among the nobility. Anna said that Leah didn't care. But 6 months later, rumors began to circulate about the prince's new passion. This girl even moved to the palace. And then, a letter came from the prince about the breakup with Leah, and the lady said to prepare a carriage for her to go to the palace. That was the last memory before that terrible event. When her body was brought back, everyone realized that she had taken poison with her to drink in front of the prince. The testimony of the palace servants also confirmed this incident. Rosetta knew something was wrong. Then Leah asked Anna one last question, whether she thought she had loved the crown prince before she lost her memory. Anna answered no. At the time, Rosetta reasoned that murder could not be ruled out. But these were only her assumptions, so she wanted to meet with Turner to find out more. She knew that the guy was on the list of guests for the boat trip. Cadriel wasn't on that list, so Leah decided that another man would be her companion today. When Leah got into the boat, she asked Cadriel in surprise why he was here. The girl said he wasn't on the list, and the guy replied that everyone knew him anyway. Lord added that he had sent her a letter expressing his desire to accompany her to various events. Leah asked why he needed that. Cadriel took off his coat and threw it over Leah's shoulders. The girl answered her own question, saying that he simply did not want to show her beauty to other men. The guy replied that it was, but he wouldn't be able to protect her from those who only looked at her appearance. Because he himself saw more in her than just beauty. He added that he didn't care whether she lost her beauty or increased it. Cadriel admitted that at first he couldn't believe it himself. And then, he decided that even if it was all just his imagination, he didn't care anymore. Rosetta forced herself to hold herself together. She decided not to see Cadriel again. The girl said that their walk was coming to an end and it was time to go home. But Cadriel showed her something, and Rosetta was delighted. It was a large warship. Leah, looking at it, asked the boy what kind of magnificent work of art it was. Cadriel asked the girl if she had heard. It turned out that today they were launching a new galleon, the Conchester, owned by members of the Trading Alliance. The guy was sure that Leah would really like it. Rosetta looked out at the water from the ship and imagined herself on the high seas. She thought the guns from that ship looked better on her Toulon. The girl thought that the bow of her ship was much better. She remembered her Toulon and the lion on the bow. Rose missed him very much. Cadriel invited Leah to a banquet that was about to begin. She went with him while Owen, also known as Turner, watched from a distance. At the banquet, Cadriel told Leah that the ship was leaving port. They might not be on the open sea, But Rosa missed that feeling so much. The salty wind, the sound of the waves, and the slight rocking. This swaying made Leah feel nauseous. She couldn't believe she was seasick. She was Rosetta of the Red Star. Turner, who was watching her at the time, was also surprised. He had thought it was Rosetta, but this seasickness had thrown him off balance. The boy wondered if this was what Calypso had been talking about. Cadriel helped Leah sit down and asked her to wait a moment while he brought her some water. At this time, Owen, aka Turner, decided to go for the breakthrough. When he approached Leah, she said she had been waiting for him for a long time. The girl asked if he had come up with anything. Turner replied that he had met with Calypso. The guy said she was cursed. He decided to see the girl's reaction. In fact, Calypso was talking about the curse of changing souls. And if Rosetta was in front of him, she would give herself away. Leah felt sick again and turned pale. Owen again doubted the existence of the curse. But still, her manners did not allow him to call her lady. The guy told Leah that she looked very tired, so they could postpone this conversation until another time. Owen suggested that she get up and get some fresh air. The young man held out his hand to her, and the girl stood up from her seat. At that moment, the ship rocked violently, and her hand slipped from his, Leah flying overboard. Cadriel ran up when he saw her fall, but without hesitation, he took off his clothes and jumped into the cold water after her. Rosetta knew that she needed to swim away from the ship and swim to the surface, but her dress was too heavy for that, and the corset was crushing her entire body. Because of this, the girl quickly lost consciousness, and Cadriel swam up in time and picked her up. When they emerged, the guy tore Leah's dress at the corset spot and, in front of everyone, performed CPR on her. It seemed to those around him that he was kissing her. Cadriel begged her to breathe because he couldn't lose his Rose again. When the girl started breathing, he asked what he could do to help her. Owen told his friend that she was still not getting enough oxygen. Then the Lord kissed Leah again, giving her some oxygen. And the first thing the girl saw when she opened her eyes was Cadriel's caring face, the same as when he called her Rosetta. When the girl woke up, she was in bed and Cadriel was sitting next to her. He asked how she was feeling, kissed her forehead, and happily announced that her fever was gone. Leah asked him where they were and where her clothes were. The boy replied that her clothes had been washed away, but assured her not to worry because he would buy her the best. Cadriel explained that they were at Monterosa's estate in the archipelago. Leah was surprised, and the young man explained that she had a fever and that this place was closer than her estate. The boy gave Leah a letter from Duke Valdemar. The girl read the letter and said that she had to return home, and Cadriel unexpectedly proposed to her. He added that they would do as the letter from her father said. After all, her father had sent not just a letter, but an official permission for their engagement. Leah did not agree to this. Then, Cadriel recalled that he had torn her dress and kissed her more than once in the presence of a dozen people. Leah agreed that it was easy to mistake them for lovers. Cadriel admitted to the girl that he understood her reluctance to marry him, but the rumors could not be stopped. He said that even an engagement would not be enough to save her reputation, so the young man suggested that Leah use him. Cadriel added that they would not have a marriage, but a contract, and he would agree to any of her conditions. The girl asked if he really did, to all of them. The guy said he agreed to absolutely everything. He suggested that after the wedding, they immediately go east if she wanted, and also to disregard the marital obligation. Leah placed her hand over her heart, just as Rosetta had many times before, and replied, "Cadriel, you are not like me. I want you to shine." She wanted him to find a beautiful wife, become an admiral, and be under his watchful eye in the eternal safety of the eastern seas, and that their paths would never cross in the future. When Leah returned, the maid Anna met her and called her Lady Monterose. She was so happy that her mistress was getting married. The girl asked how she knew all this. Anna replied that everyone on the estate already knew everything, and she prepared a list of fresh rumors for her. Without hesitation, Lord Cadriel rushed to the aid of the drowning girl. Lady Leah woke in the middle of the night to find Lord Cadriel lying next to her in bed. Strong emotions washed over them like a tsunami. Leah asked Anna to bring her something. A while later, Rosetta, dressed as a maid, tried to climb over the fence of her estate. As she swung her legs over the fence, she saw Turner on the other side, who offered to catch her. The girl ran away, not listening to what he was trying to tell her. Once in the city center, Rosetta reflected that things weren't so bad. She now had enough money to head east, but first she wanted to get her body back. The girl wondered how surprised Cadriel would be when he saw her back in her body. Suddenly, she noticed an old woman who looked very much like Calypso. Leah ran to her, but she disappeared. And then, around the corner, the old woman grabbed her and covered the girl's mouth so she wouldn't scream, and let her go. Rose asked her what she was doing here. The old woman replied that Calypso was everywhere, although she admitted that she had not expected to meet Rosetta today. The girl was glad that she recognized her. And Calypso said that she knew everything, and they met because the time had come. The old woman told Rosie that she did not need to go east. Rosetta asked Calypso what she meant. "You are looking for your body, but it has been resting at the bottom of the sea for 4 whole years," Calypso said. The old woman added that even she could not revive a skeleton that had been gnawed at by fish. Rosetta asked her what happened to the other girl's soul then. Calypso replied that she was somewhere beyond her sight, most likely in another world. Rosetta realized that Leah's soul would never be able to return to her body again. Then, she asked Calypso to cast a spell on her to restore her appearance. But the old woman replied that she was under a curse of soul swapping, and she could no longer cast any spell on her because the rule says, 1 soul, 1 curse. The girl was sad that now she would forever be a bird in a golden cage. The old witch handed her a bottle of poison and said that she could drink it, and then her soul would no longer be able to be in this body, and she would fall asleep forever. Rosetta held the bottle in her hands and thought about how if she stayed in this body for the rest of her life, she would never be able to return to the ship. After all, even if she managed to escape, this body was too weak for piracy. It would be better to die then, she thought, and raised the bottle to her mouth. Then, Rosa remembered how much she had had to go through just to survive. She wondered if she would really have to give up her dream. The girl saw him and remembered that she had a boyfriend who was ready to give his life for her. Cadriel ran to her and told her that they could not get married if she didn't want to. The guy hugged her and said that he would do anything she wanted, but asked her not to leave him. Rosa thought that he had made this decision himself. Therefore, let him not blame her for everything later, because for her, he is the only hope. The girl lost consciousness in his arms, and Cadriel shouted for his Rose to return to him. She had a wonderful dream, hearing the waves crashing and feeling the sea breeze on her cheeks. Her ship was racing towards the horizon, cutting across the water. When Rosetta realized it was just a dream, she swore to herself to return to the ship. Anna was worried about her mistress, who had slept for 10 days. Leah asked Anna to call Lord Cadriel to her after she changed. When he arrived, the girl announced that she agreed to the marriage. Cadriel reminded her that there was no going back. Leah replied that she understood that. The boy took her hand and said that he would never let her go again. He put his head on her shoulder and said he wanted to look into her head to understand her a little. The girl replied that he was everything to her, and so it was. He was her only hope. She would have no obligations, and since he was from the east, the salty sea air was guaranteed. Leah said she had drawn up a contract, and he could read it and make sure she wasn't lying. Cadriel signed the contract without reading it. The girl was outraged. She reminded the guy that you need to check what you sign. But Cadriel replied that he agreed to any of her conditions, so he didn't care. Rosetta sat in front of the mirror in her wedding dress, unable to believe that she was marrying Cadriel. Her team would be devastated by the news. They would have a party in honor of Cadriel and say that he had been chasing her like a dog, and finally got her. Rosa missed her team very much. Cadriel entered her room. He was very handsome, in a white wedding suit. The girl asked if he liked her dress. The boy replied that she was very beautiful and that he felt like the happiest person in the world. He took her hands and kissed her forehead. Rosetta's adoptive father, the father of Pirates of All Seas, Kierg, once said, "To love means to be ready to give up everything for the sake of a dear person." But Rosa knew she wasn't ready to do that for Cadriel. She would never give up piracy and her revenge. Does that mean she doesn't love him? Rosetta couldn't tell herself that she didn't feel anything for him, but she told herself not to love him too much the moment they were declared man and wife. The priest said that now, after the bride and groom had sworn their fidelity to each other, they could seal their vows with a kiss. and Cadriel kissed Leah tenderly. After the ceremony, the archbishop asked them to give him a moment. Cadriel told Leah not to worry because he had already spoken to the priest about her. The archbishop congratulated the girl on her marriage and said that her spiritual energy had changed. He added that it happens that water stagnates if it falls into an unsuitable vessel, but the priest said that it just needed some time, and then informed Leah that a danger would soon come that only she could handle. He pointed to the girl, saying that it was her. The prince entered the hall with his bride, to whom the archbishop pointed. They congratulated the couple on their wedding, and the girl asked Cadriel to show her the gardens of Valdemort. The prince told the archbishop to go about his business and leave him and Leah alone. The young man told her that he had been looking forward to their meeting. The girl asked why, and the prince said that she knew the reason better than he did. Rose noticed the calypso pendant around his neck and felt sick. "Who are you?" the prince asked. He saw that the girl had turned pale, but said that they would talk next time. Before leaving, the prince put something in Leah's hand. Rosetta recognized her and Nick's matching bracelets in her hand. "Here, damn it! Nick, what have you done already?" Rosetta said angrily. That evening, while taking a bath, Rosetta wondered how the crown prince was connected to Nick. She thought she would have to ask Cadriel if he knew anything. Anna suggested that Leah choose an outfit for her wedding night. The lady initially refused, but then settled on a single peignoir in a violet hue. Rosetta was waiting for Cadriel on the bed. She was almost speechless when he entered the room. He was wearing only a towel around his waist. The girl reminded him that they had agreed not to fulfill their marital duty, and the boy climbed onto the bed, took a bathrobe from under his pillow, and got dressed. Leah asked why the servants hadn't brought him clothes to the bathroom. Cadriel replied that he always bathed alone and didn't like being touched by anyone but her. Ro told herself not to be drawn to his handsome face and body. She reminded Cadriel of their contract. The guy replied that he was lucky that she had no other options, but he said that people should believe in their marriage and took off the shirt that covered her shoulders. Cadriel added that rumors would spread if the maids did not see traces of their passion. Her husband began to kiss Leah gently on the neck, then on the stomach, shooting her hair. Rosetta closed her eyes in pleasure. Unexpectedly, Cadriel said that was it. Leah suggested that they sleep separately, and Cadriel agreed. But the girl stopped him and called him to her. She said that this would be their attempt to get used to their new life. In the morning, the parents escorted their daughter and her husband to the carriage. The mother cried because her daughter had grown up so quickly, and the girl already wanted to leave here as soon as possible. Cadriel suggested that Leah's parents spend the summer and fall together in his country, as these seasons were especially beautiful there. The Duchess agreed, and the Duke told the newlyweds that it was time for them to leave. As Rosetta sat in this carriage, she remembered how she had dreamed of running away from that crazy family. But why wasn't she happy? Probably because she wasn't a real daughter. She was sad that her parents had not had a chance to say goodbye to Leah. The girl asked for the carriage to stop and ran to them. She hugged her mother and wished her parents to stay in good health for as long as possible. Rosa decided to do this for Leah and said goodbye to Valdemort for good. Leah asked Anna if it was true that they were going for a week. The girl confirmed it and said that Monteros Castle had a wonderful view of the sea. Rose smiled. Finally, she was on the right track. Once they reached the castle, she would need to find Nick and contact someone from the Sea League. Turner could help her with this, so she should find him. The girl thought that Quadrille might be more useful, but she wouldn't use him. Rosetta wanted to discuss with him the question of her true identity. She asked Anna where her husband was. Anna replied that he was in another carriage. The maid explained to the lady that His Majesty had a huge number of matters of state importance at the moment, so he had to travel in a separate carriage with a personal secretary. When they arrived, the weather was beautiful, and Cadriel suggested that Leah take a walk on the beach. There, he said he wanted to show her something and took her somewhere without saying anything. The girl saw the bow figure of the Toulon in the form of a lion under a palm tree near the water. She asked where it came from. Cadriel replied that he had found it on the beach and brought it here so that it would not be washed away by the current. Cadriel said that Toulon was a memory of Kyrg, but he had never lost his relic. A priest approached them and apologized for being late. When he began his speech, Leah asked Cadriel what was happening. He replied that it was their wedding, because they had to take an oath before her god, Pontus, the god of the seas. Rosetta was indignant because this oath could not be broken. She reminded the boy that he would not go to heaven, and he replied that he did not need heaven without her. Cadriel said he was willing to go through hell just to hold her hand. He reminded the girl of her words on the ship. The wedding dress, the ceremony, what is it all for? A Pontic priest, a bottle of good rum, you will stand in front of the ship on which you will spend your whole life and swear to each other to go to the bottom on one day, at 1 hour. What could be more beautiful? Cadriel quoted her words. Tears welled up in Rosetta's eyes, and she asked if he was willing to go that far. Cadriel replied that he would go as far as she would allow. The Pontic priest began his speech. Let neither rolling thunder nor death destroy this union. The boy said his words, until the seas dry up, until they turn into rocks of salt, and took a sip of rum from the bottle. Rosetta said the same words and drank some rum. After that, Cadriel hugged his wife and said to her, My Rogie! Rosetta! The girl smiled and called him a cookie eater and kissed him. Rosa asked when he realized it was her. The guy replied that she had a unique accent, a special way she arched her eyebrows and covered her right eye when she laughed. She also tilts her head when looking into someone's eyes, bites her lip when frowning, and ever since she injured her shoulder, she always relaxes her arm when she has to put pressure on it. But more importantly, from the first time they met, she smelled of the sea. Then, Cadriel said that this was all that was left of Toulon and pointed to the bow figure. The girl asked about her body, and the young man hugged her and apologized. Rosa said that he had already done more than enough and thanked him. Cadriel said he wanted to show her something else. There were many people in the house, each of them busy with their own business. Rosetta asked him why they were here. Her husband replied that they were orphans she was taking care of. She wanted to give them hope for a bright future. The girl thanked him for what he had done. When the boy brought Rosetta home, he kissed her on the forehead and said he had to go to finish some work. His wife took his hand and asked him to stay with her for the night. Young Cadriel, 17 years old, was training on the street near Monteros Castle in the east. Vigo, the admiral's subordinate, asked if the boy had gone out into the world again. The boy was surprised and asked how Vigo had guessed this. The boy replied that he had known him for 6 years and could distinguish any changes in his behavior during training. Cadriel said he despised his duties as a young lord. No matter what event he attended, everyone looked at him like he was a delicacy. The girls act as if he is their personal property. They are jealous of him, gossip about each other, and brag about who is better. In general, they act like a pack of animals. Vigo wanted to support the boy, but he kept talking. All he wants is to be an admiral like his father. And his mother won't even let him on the ship. She says it's very dangerous and considers him a child. Vigo asked the boy if he wanted to fulfill his dream today. Cadriel asked him what he meant. The man said that today was his last day of service, and he could give him such a farewell gift, and thus cheer him up. Cadriel was so happy that he couldn't believe this possibility. Vigo said that he wouldn't be part of the fleet tomorrow, so he wouldn't get a reprimand, and said that they would meet at night. They agreed to meet at night in the harbor of Cyclades to board the ship. That night, 25-year-old Rosetta entered Beatley prison, looking for Cadriel. Kierg ordered her to sneak into the Beetle prison and rescue the admiral's son. Rosetta was outraged that Kierg had suggested she work for the admiral. After all the pirates would laugh at her if they found out. Kierg said that was why he had called her, not Nick. Rosetta replied that helping their sworn enemy was a betrayal of the pirate brotherhood, but that would force the admiral to side with them. Kierg corrected the girl, who was on her side, because she was the best candidate to succeed him. And since she's a woman, she'll need support to gain recognition. He said that if Rosetta could do the job, she'd be the strongest captain of all. That was their plan. If all went well, the admiral and his son would side with her, and she would be able to use this connection in the future. So Rosetta went to the prison cell and asked the boy how he was doing. The girl said that his father would give her money if she brought him back alive. When Rosetta saw his eyes, she wondered how this cute child could possibly be used. The boy didn't take his eyes off her as Ro killed the guards. After taking the boy from prison to the shore, the pirate informed him that they would meet with the Saraposa fleet, and they themselves would deliver him to the admiral. He was supposed to get into the boat, but Cadriel fell into the water after stepping on the boat. It was deep and the current was fast, so Rosetta jumped into the water after him. She kissed him underwater to give him some oxygen. Then they sailed on the boat, and the guy kept his eyes on her. The pirate said that now he owed her. Rosetta reminded the boy that she had saved him and asked him not to forget it when he became an admiral. Cadriel replied that he would repay his duty to his lady. The girl laughed and said that she was not someone's lady, but a captain. Cadriel replied that she was, but she was not his captain and called her lady. The young man asked the pirate to tell him her name if she did not want him to call her my lady. She answered, and then he thanked her for saving him. The boy asked if they would ever meet again. Rosetta replied that an admiral and a pirate should not communicate, and added that he should not look for her. When they reached another boat, the pirate asked the two men in uniform for the password. They told her the password, and she showed them her badge with the image of the ship. Rosetta told Cadriel that everything was fine, and he could get on their boat. But the young man didn't want to go until she told him where they could meet. Sitting in the bar after this case, Ro heard a conversation about someone being offered such a job just to put on a Navy uniform, but it would have required sailing on a boat into the Serapaz Sea. Rosetta thought about how, as soon as she had handed over the admiral's son to the fleet, someone had hired people to disguise themselves as sailors. It was a very strange situation, but Ro convinced herself that she had done her job and it was no longer her business. Then she remembered the boy's eyes and decided to act. At this time, the man with the gun pointed at Cadriel's head, asked if he was surprised that he was being kidnapped by the same person for the second time in a day. The guy asked what he wanted. Vigo said he was just following orders and put a gun to his forehead. At that moment, Rosetta attacked him from behind and greeted the guy. There were many soldiers on the ship, so Ro asked Cadriel to draw his sword and help her. Together, they fought the enemies, and when the ship shook, Rosetta covered the boy with her. Heavy barrels fell on the girl and injured her shoulder. Cadriel was worried about her, but Rosa continued to fight until they saw the admiral's ship. They were saved! Cadriel asked the girl how her shoulder was. She replied that it was no reason to worry. The boy wanted to confess his feelings to her. But suddenly, Rosetta saw Nick coming after her in a boat. She told Cadriel that it was fun and reminded him that she had saved him twice. Then, Ro jumped into the boat with Nick. They hugged and happily sailed away beyond the horizon. And Cadriel looked sadly at their boat. The boy kept asking his friend Owen about Rosetta and Nick. Owen learned that they were both orphans who were given shelter by Kyrg, so they were more like brother and sister. He also knows that of the two of them, it is Rosetta who should succeed Kyrg. Cadriel begged Owen to tell him where he could see her. The friend said that the deal would be made tonight at the harbor, and he would be able to see her there. But every time the guy came, he couldn't meet his Rosa. Well, one day he got lucky and saw her. The girl was indignant that he was pursuing her. She asked him not to come anymore, because she was going away for a while. Cadriel confessed to Rosetta that he liked her. She asked him to forget her, but he replied that he would never be able to do so in his life. The young man promised that he would find her, no matter how long it took. Cadriel added that it didn't even matter to him what she looked like. He would be with her anyway. Now they lay together in bed, husband and wife. Rosetta couldn't believe that she had truly fallen in love with Cadriel. Crown Prince Diego asked the man how their case was going. The man replied that kidnapping people was easy for a pirate. And Nick asked the prince how the search for Rosetta was going. He added that the prince had taken the bracelets, so there must be some progress. The prince replied that someone whose soul had changed bodies would hardly advertise the fact. Therefore, Prince Diego ordered the pirate to focus on his work and promised to fulfill his. Nick asked him to find Rosetta, because she is the only thing he needs in this life. Cadriel and Leah came to his parents. His mother was happy to meet Leah, her son's wife. She wanted to show them the estate and give them a tour of the garden. The boy asked his mother not to overwhelm Leah with his attention. His father told Cadriel to show respect to his mother because she had been waiting for this moment. The admiral added that he and his son would still have to go to the residence on business. Cadriel kissed Leah and promised to return as soon as possible. The Duchess took the girl by the hand and led her around their estate. She said she wanted them to be comfortable here, and if they wanted to live separately, she would understand. Then, the Duchess thanked Leah for bringing Cadriel back to life. Ruiz said that he used to be an open boy who told everyone about everything and enjoyed life. But over the past few years, he has completely closed his heart. The guy has become like a tree, unable to feel any emotions. But when he met her, Cadriel began to smile. The mother was happy to see her son like this again, as if those difficult years were for the sake of these joyful days. The Duchess said she understood that Leah was tired from the tour, but all they had left to see was her and Cadriel's room. That was how he wanted it to look. When the girl opened the door to the room, she couldn't believe that she was standing in front of an exact replica of her cabin on the Toulon. Cadriel asked her if she liked it when they were alone. Rosa replied that he tried very hard. The guy replied that he just wanted her to be happy. Cadriel said that they could go somewhere else if she wanted. The girl replied that his dream lay in the east, and Cadriel objected because his dream was to be with her. But her happiness was what he desired most. Rosetta called her husband crazy, and he said she could do whatever she wanted, as long as she didn't die or do something terrible. At night, Cadriel kissed his wife and left on business, and she got up and changed into a maid's suit. Anna asked if she really wanted to do this. Rosetta replied that she had been waiting for this for a very long time. The maid Anna showed Lady Leah the path the servants took to take out the rubbish, and they followed it. Leah asked her how long it would take to get to the main square. Anna said it would take about an hour. They hired a carriage and set off into town. When they arrived at the location, Leah told Anna that if she wasn't here in 2 hours, she would have to pick up the people and head to the harbor. If it took more than 2 hours, it would mean she was in danger. But Leah asked Anna not to go to the naval department under any circumstances, because then Cadriel himself would find out. Rosetta left the frightened maid and went searching, but she could not find the place she needed. A lot had changed here in the past 4 years. That's the nature of a port city. It rebuilds very quickly. Ro knew that at this rate she wouldn't be able to return quickly. Then, she noticed 2 men following her. Rosetta thought they were either thieves or people hired by Cadriel to follow her. The girl quickly dealt with them. She didn't want anyone to know where she was going, but later she quickly found the place she needed. The boy sat in front of the door and begged for alms. Even 1 copper coin will suffice, although a silver coin would be better. The girl replied that she had left her money in the whale's belly. Then the young man said, "And yet, your wrists seem to be firmly fixed in place." The hooded lady replied, "Well, I escaped long before the beast could swallow my hands." The guy pointed to the door, and the girl entered the bar. There were many men there, but she headed straight for the bartender. Rosetta told him she needed to find something. The bartender said he didn't understand what she was talking about. Someone shouted for the girl to be taken out of the bar, but Rosetta opened the secret door herself and entered the room. There, the boy grabbed her by the throat. The girl screamed, "Owen, it's me!" and he let her go. The surprised boy asked Lady Leah how she had come to be here and how she knew about this place. He knew that Cadriel would never tell her about it. The girl replied that she had her own methods of gathering information. Lady Leah said that she had come to him today not as an acquaintance, but as a client. But before that, she wanted to clarify one thing. Owen knew what she was talking about, and Leah asked why he hadn't come to the wedding. But really, that wasn't what she was worried about. The girl asked if he felt guilty about her falling into the water. Rosetta understood that it would be much better for her if he felt guilty. The problem was that he might drag Cadriel into it, and if she didn't want that to happen, she had to get him fully on her side. Owen replied that he was truly sorry for fainting for a moment. Leah smiled and said that she almost died because he let go of her hand. But the girl added that everything was fine, and she came to tell him because he didn't even come to their wedding. She wanted him to confide in her. The guy was surprised that she came to such a dangerous place just to tell him about it. And besides, she said that she came to him as a client. Then Lady Leah confessed to Owen that she had come to him to ask him for some information. She was interested in the pirate Rosetta, Cadriel's first love. Owen was very surprised that Leah would ask about this, and the girl also asked for information about the Rosetta team. She wanted to meet them and chat. Leah said that her husband loves her, but she thinks he's thinking about that girl, so she'd like to know a little more about her. She had only asked Owen for help once, and had promised him that no one would find out. The guy didn't know what to do. When Leah ran to Anna, she said that in a moment she would have to put her on the wanted list. The girl said that she had done everything and they could leave. They miraculously arrived home before Kadriel did. Rosa lay down in bed and waited for her husband to come. She met him as if she had just woken up. Kadriel invited his wife to dinner, and Rosa asked him to find her a fencing coach. The husband was surprised, but promised to do whatever she wanted. Owen was sitting in the carriage opposite his friend. Kadriel asked him, "Well, Owen, what did my wife ask you to do?" But his friend remained silent. Then Kadriel recalled that when he had allowed him to conduct reconnaissance in that area, they had agreed that Owen would show them everything he had learned. The guy asked his friend why he was now going against the deal. Owen replied that he was curious why his friend was acting like this with his wife's secrets. Kadriel asked his friend not to play the information broker. The guy replied that he wasn't playing, but was just thinking about what position to take. And he added that this is important when you deal with clients who are friends. Then Kadriel told his friend that he had misunderstood him. He said his only goal was to protect his wife. So Kadriel asked him to do whatever she wanted to prevent that from happening. Owen was surprised and said that he didn't even know what request she had made. The guy replied that he had a guess, so he would take all the expenses for this matter on himself. Then, Kadriel asked his friend to let him know if he learned anything about Toulon. Owen realized that he already knew everything. Kadriel replied that his main concern was his wife's safety, which is why his men were watching her. Owen said he would help them, but he also had a request. He said he heard that Leah needed a fencing coach. Yes, he would like to train her personally, and he can fence quite well. Kadriel asked her friend what he was up to. He said he wanted to confirm something. Besides, she wouldn't have to go the dangerous route to him again to find out. Leah asked Owen what he was doing here. He asked permission to formally introduce himself to her. "Viscount Owen Canberg at your service. From this day forward, I will be your fencing coach." The girl told him that it was an incredible coincidence, and Owen admitted that he had asked for this position himself because it was dangerous for her to go to the place where they had last seen each other. Leah asked him what exactly he had told Kadriel about their meeting. Owen remained silent, remembering how his friend had asked him to keep his involvement a secret. The girl asked what was going on with their case, and he gave her a list of the Toulon crew members who could be contacted at the moment. The guy told her to choose one of them, and they would go to him. Rosetta smiled and said they would go to him right now. As they walked through the market, Owen told Lady Leah that she didn't need to take such a risk and could stay home. But the girl replied that she needed to talk in person. While they were looking for him, Turner told Leah that the boy's name was Melvin and that he was the youngest on the Toulon. Rosetta had taken him in when he was little. Owen reminded Leah to be careful because he was a former pirate after all. The girl asked why the X, and the guy replied that he had broken his leg and was now selling various things at the market. He was extremely cunning, so Turner reminded her once again that a moment of weakness could cost her her jewels. Leah pretended to be frightened. Rosetta decided to create an opportunity for her and Melvin to be alone. To do this, she would take advantage of his old habit. Lady Leah pretended to slip on a carrot and fell right on top of the boy. He saw her clothes and diamond earrings and immediately fell for her bait. Melvin clutched his head and began to lament his failure. Owen shouted that he didn't have a scratch, and Leah said she would accompany him to the doctor. The girl told Owen that she would take the boy to the carriage and asked him to look after the vegetables. Turner was not thrilled with the idea. In the carriage, Melvin thanked the lady for her concern. But Rosetta interrupted him and said that it was enough to pretend and called him by his name. The boy asked how she knew his name. The girl replied that she knew from the captain's first mate, Nick. She wanted to find out if Melvin was one of those who betrayed her on that terrible day. Leah told him that she and Nick were reuniting those who participated in the rebellion 4 years ago, so she was here to invite him to be with them. Rosetta prayed that he would refuse, that she might not mistake him. Melvin replied to the lady that she was mistaken, and that he had not taken part in the mutiny. Then the girl asked if he wanted to kill that crazy female captain. Melvin was indignant and said that serving Captain Rosetta was the best thing in his life. Then the girl confessed to him that she was Rosetta Red Star. As proof, she showed him her captain's bracelet. Melvin couldn't believe it. Rosetta said she returned from the salty abyss to get revenge on Nick, the cowardly scumbag who stabbed her in the back.